There are many amazing places in China that are hidden from the eyes of most people. These corners of the earth hold not only natural beauty, but also deep historical and cultural significance dating back thousands of years. There are ancient villages tucked away in the mountains, unique landscapes almost untouched by man, and communities that preserve traditions that are disappearing in the modern world. But why do these places remain in the shadows, inaccessible to mass tourism and even to the majority of the country's inhabitants? The reasons vary: strict conservation measures, inaccessibility, climatic conditions, cultural and religious peculiarities, and sometimes political restrictions. It is because of this seclusion that these places retain their authenticity and magic. They continue to live their lives, telling stories you can't hear in popular tourist centers. In this installment, let's walk through 60 such hidden corners of China, from mysterious mountain villages to forgotten temples, from ancient caves to impenetrable forests. Each of these corners has something special to offer, revealing a vast and diverse country. What makes these places stay out of the spotlight? How does the modern world manage to keep such secrets? This story will give you a deeper look at the mysterious China, discover its little-known facets, and feel the spirit of those places that are kept in the shadows, hidden but incredibly attractive. Ready to discover what China is hiding and where the most amazing secrets reside? This journey promises to be a true discovery. The Tongl Valley is an inaccessible mountain valley, accessible only on foot, which keeps it safe from mass tourism. The valley is home to ancient villages where time seems to have stood still, and the traditional way of life has hardly changed over the centuries. The valley is surrounded by high mountains and dense forests, creating a secluded and mysterious atmosphere. The locals live in harmony with nature without changing their way of life. The Tongl Valley radiates a tranquility that can be felt from the first steps on its trails. Jiangshan Ridge is a remote mountain range that is home to rare plant species and rare animals listed in the Red Book. This range is covered with dense forests, which are protected by conservation areas and guarded from human interference. Soft fog often descends on the peaks, giving the landscape a mysterious and mystical look. Jiangshan Ridge attracts scientists and naturalists, but access here is very limited. This place seems to capture the breath of ancient times. Lummen caves are located in rugged areas that can only be accessed with special equipment and experienced guides. Inside the caves are cool and semi-dark, which creates a special atmosphere of mystery and grandeur. The walls of the caves are decorated with natural stalactites and stalagmites formed over thousands of years. The Lummen caves are breathtakingly beautiful and unusual, leaving you with the feeling that you have entered a hidden underground world. The caves can only be explored for a limited time due to the difficult conditions. Lake Namu is a sacred place for Tibetan monks, and tourists are strictly restricted from entering the lake as a sign of respect for religious traditions. The water of the lake is crystal clear and deep, reflecting the sky and mountains, giving the impression of a mirror-like surface. Locals believe that this lake has a special spiritual power that gives peace and strength. The lake is surrounded by picturesque mountains and rare plants, which makes it even more mystical. This place is not just a natural object, but a real symbol of spirituality. Hakachungan village is closed to mass tourism to preserve the authenticity and traditional way of life of its people. The village preserves ancient towers and houses built many centuries ago, which tell the rich history of the Hakka people. The locals follow traditions and customs that have been handed down from generation to generation. Restricted access helps to preserve the unique atmosphere and culture of the place. Hakachungang village is like a living open-air museum. The Wulingyu Mountains are often hidden by dense fog and forests, making them almost inaccessible to ordinary tourists. These mountains are shrouded in legends and mysteries, and the scenery here is breathtaking in its pristine beauty. The fog gives the mountains a mystical look, creating a sense of immersion in a fairy tale world. These places preserve rare species of plants and animals that need protection from the outside world. The Ulinyu Mountains are a true nature reserve where peace and tranquility reign. The bamboo forest in Zhangjiajie is a protected natural area that is home to one of the most beautiful and dense bamboo forests in the world. This forest is filled with freshness and rustling leaves, creating a special atmosphere of tranquility. Tall bamboo stalks form green tunnels through which the soft sunlight penetrates. Entrance to the forest is strictly regulated to preserve the ecosystem and balance of nature. Bamboo forest is an ideal place for those who seek silence and closeness to nature. Shenzhen Dangxia Island is a geological park with unique, colorful rock formations that seem like living pictures of nature. This island is protected, and the number of visitors is strictly limited to preserve the fragile beauty of the landscape. The rocks here are colored in vibrant shades of red, orange, and yellow, creating fantastic landscapes. Wind and water have shaped these amazing forms over millions of years. Shenzhen Dangxia Island is one of China's most unusual natural wonders. Tarim Desert is a vast and brutal desert with extreme climatic conditions, where you will rarely meet a human being. The high sand dunes and the hot sun create a harsh and beautiful landscape. The nights are cold here, and the stars seem closer than anywhere else. The inaccessibility makes the desert a real challenge for travelers. The Tarim Desert holds the vast silence and majesty of nature. Yangshuo Village, despite its popularity among tourists, many of its ancient corners remain hidden and almost untouched. The narrow stone streets and traditional houses immerse you in the atmosphere of past centuries. The locals continue to live a simple lifestyle, preserving their cultural heritage. Tourists usually confine themselves to the main attractions without noticing the hidden paths and courtyards. Yangshuo Village is a place where you can feel the real breath of history. Huangshu waterfalls are located in inaccessible mountainous areas where you can only reach them after a long and difficult climb. The power and noise of the falling water are both awe-inspiring, and the fresh mountain air fills your lungs with a special purity. This waterfall seems to be hidden from the hustle and bustle of the world, surrounded by dense forests and rocky cliffs. In some places, the road to Huanggosh is dangerous and requires special caution, which adds to its mystery. Those who have seen these waterfalls once remember them for life. The Mogao Caves are a treasure trove of ancient art, where the walls hold murals and sculptures created hundreds of years ago. A UNESCO-protected site, it requires careful handling and limited visitation to preserve its unique heritage. The atmosphere inside the caves is filled with mystery, as if time has stopped here. Every step across the stone floors is a touch of history and culture that inspires and amazes. Mogao Caves is a place where you can feel connected to the ancient world. Despite its beauty, Jiuzhaigou Nature Reserve is partially closed during the rainy season and winter, when nature shows its harsh side. The forests, lakes, and mountain scenery here are like living pictures, changing with the seasons. The sound of waterfalls and the tranquility of high mountain lakes create a feeling of peace and unity with nature. At times, the weather can be unpredictable, and the trails become slippery and dangerous. This is a place where nature dictates its own rules, making you respect its strength and fragility. The Li Valley is a remote area inhabited by small ethnic groups that preserve their ancient traditions and customs. Here time seems to slow down, and simple village houses blend into the picturesque mountain landscape. The inhabitants of the valley lead a way of life almost unchanged for centuries, making this place a unique cultural island. Limited access helps preserve purity and authenticity without allowing the outside world to influence tradition. The Li Valley is a world where nature and man are closely intertwined. Huangyang Ghost Town was left abandoned after the construction of the dam, and now it is as if the place is frozen in time. The abandoned houses and empty streets create a sense of mysticism and sadness, as if life has stopped here. Limited access adds to the mystery of the place, as not everyone can get into these empty neighborhoods. The wind blows through the broken windows and the silence seems almost tangible. Huangyang is a monument to the changes and the price of progress that changed this corner of China forever. The Tianmen Mountains are known for their steep cliffs and dangerous routes, which greatly limits the flow of tourists. Anyone who dares to climb the peaks experiences a mixture of fear and delight at the majesty of nature. The fog that often shrouds the mountains adds to their mystery and enhances the sense of mysticism. Here you can feel yourself at the edge of the world, away from civilization and hustle and bustle. The Tianmen Mountains are a symbol of the power and beauty of nature, which cannot be subdued by man. Penlai Island is small and isolated. It retains the atmosphere of a secluded paradise. Limited infrastructure makes traveling here a challenge, but that's what helps preserve the natural purity. The beaches and cliffs of the island remain virtually untouched, which attracts lovers of silence and natural beauty. The island is tranquil, as if time flows differently here. Penlai is a place for those looking for a real reboot away from the noisy world. Majin Village is inhabited by a unique people who carefully preserve their cultural traditions and customs. The villagers limit contact with the outside world so as not to lose their authenticity. Narrow streets, old houses, and ceremonies create an atmosphere of living history. Local handicrafts and festivals are passed down from generation to generation, making Magyarán a unique cultural island. This village is like a guardian of the past in a fast-changing world. The Lushan Range is protected as a national park and can only be accessed by special permit, which helps to preserve its natural beauty. Dense forests, mountain rivers, and waterfalls create scenic landscapes that inspire travelers and artists. In the silence of this place, only the whispering of the wind and birdsong can be heard, giving a feeling of complete solitude. Lushan is a place where nature rules the ball and reminds you of its power. The ban on free access helps to preserve this magic for future generations. The Gobi Desert is a harsh and vast expanse where extreme conditions and long distances between settlements make travel challenging and dangerous. Hot days and icy nights create a contrast that tests everyone's endurance. The desert seems endless, its vastness arousing both fear and admiration. Despite the hardships, the Gobi holds ancient secrets and legends of nomadic peoples. It is a place where man becomes a part of the great natural element. The Yungan Caves are closed due to unstable rocks and the constant danger of cave-ins, making it life-threatening to visit. Hidden within these caves are ancient rock paintings and artifacts that remain inaccessible to most explorers. The silence in these depths seems like the breath of ages, filled with secrets and legends. Every slight movement can cause a rockfall, so safety is paramount here. The Yungan Caves are a reminder of the fragility of heritage and the power of nature at the same time. Yunnan village is hidden in the mountains, where roads and transportation hardly reach, creating a feeling of complete seclusion. The inhabitants live in close contact with nature, preserving ancient traditions and a simple way of life. Every day here is spent in harmony with the mountainous terrain and seasonal changes. The village seems to be lost in time, surrounded by dense forests and fog. Whoever comes here feels a rare opportunity to touch the unknown. Huangshan Mountain is famous for its unique nature, and the limited flow of tourists helps to preserve its pristine beauty. The moss-covered rocks and majestic pine trees create an atmosphere of mysticism and antiquity. The wind here brings cold and freshness mixed with the aroma of pine needles and wet earth. Climbing the peaks is a challenge to the body and mind, but the views from the mountain are worth every effort. Huangshan is a place where nature is felt in all its power and grace. Yalongjiang Canyon is remote and accessible only to those who are prepared to hike for days through impenetrable terrain. Deep gorges and swift rivers create a sense of adventure and even danger. Every step here is a struggle with nature, but also a reward for courage. The water in the river sparkles in the sun, reflecting the rugged beauty of the surrounding rocks. The Yalongjiang is a challenge for the mind and body, where you can feel truly at one with the wilderness. Tunchi Lake is located high in the mountains, and the harsh winters make visiting it a very difficult and rare experience. The water here is crystal clear and icy, surrounded by snow-capped peaks. The silence and tranquility of the lake seem to stop time, giving the place a mystical aura. Few people come here in summer to enjoy the beauty and freshness, while the rest of the year the lake is hidden under a thick layer of snow. Tianchi is a symbol of the rugged but beguiling beauty of nature. The Lama Temple in Lhasa is a holy place to which access for foreign tourists is strictly limited. Its ancient walls preserve the spiritual secrets and traditions of Tibetan Buddhism. The atmosphere here is filled with tranquility and grandeur, the feeling of touching something sacred. A visit to the temple is not just an excursion, but a spiritual experience and an opportunity to understand the culture of this mysterious region. The Lama Temple reminds of the thin line between the world and spirituality. Qinhuangdao Village's remote and underdeveloped infrastructure makes it virtually inaccessible to most travelers. The locals lead a traditional lifestyle, preserving their ancestral culture and customs. The streets are narrow and unpaved, and the simplicity of everyday life gives the village a special charm. Each house is a reflection of centuries-old traditions, and the surrounding nature seems to protect the place from the outside world. Qinhuangdao is a place where you can feel the real depth of the past. The Taklamakan Desert is one of the largest and most impassable sands in the world, known for its harshness and ruthlessness. Sandstorms and extreme temperatures make it dangerous and rarely traveled. The silence of the desert, interrupted only by the wind, evokes a sense of loneliness and grandeur at the same time. This place holds the secrets of ancient caravan routes and legends of nomads. Taklamakan is a desert where nature dictates its rules without compromise. The Sangari Nature Reserve is a restricted-access wilderness where animals and plants live almost without human interference. Here you can hear sounds that rarely reach the ears of city dwellers: the rustling of leaves, the singing of birds, and the babbling of mountain streams. The protection of the reserve is strict in order to preserve the ecosystem in its pristine state. The atmosphere is filled with a sense of security and harmony with nature. Sungari is an island of silence and natural beauty in a noisy world. The Hebei Mountains are remote and little explored areas, shrouded in mystery and legends of the local peoples. These mountains are often hidden in mists and clouds, giving them a mysterious and mystical appearance. Wild trails and cliffs attract extreme hikers ready for a challenge. Rare species of flora and fauna are found here, making the mountains important in terms of biodiversity. Hebei is a place where nature has not yet revealed all its secrets. The Fengguan caves are closed to visitors due to their high archaeological value and fragile internal structures. Inside, they contain frescoes and artifacts that have not been influenced by time and the hands of tourists. The silence and coolness of these places create an atmosphere of deep reverence for antiquity. Scientists work here carefully, step by step, restoring pieces of the past. Fengguan remains a treasure trove of knowledge, inaccessible to the common man's eye. Chungshao Island is sparsely populated and isolated, with dense forests and steep coastal slopes. It is rarely visited by tourists, and the locals live in harmony with nature and the rhythms of the sea. The winds here carry the salty smell of freedom, and the noise of the waves drowns out all the sounds of civilization. The old wharf has long been dilapidated, and rare boats remind of the time when traders came here. Changshao seems to slip away from modernity, hiding in the shadows of its seclusion. The Yangshui Valley is little known even within China, hidden among steep mountains and forests. You can only get there on foot, following narrow paths along streams and cliffs. Nature is unspoiled here. Rare birds, mists over the glades, and silence broken only by the murmur of water. The local communities live as they did centuries ago, without hurry or technology. Yangshui is a valley where the past lives in the present. The inaccessible sections of the Yangtze River hold a rugged beauty: steep banks, thickets that are almost impossible to pass through, and streams crashing over rocks. There is almost no infrastructure in these places, only traces of ancient villages on the steep cliffs. In places, nature here seems pristine, almost frightening in its wildness. The river carries water past these corners as if protecting them from intrusion. The mysterious stretches of the Yangtze are a reminder of how vast and unexplored the country is. Lijiang's old quarters are a maze of narrow cobblestone streets and wooden houses with sloping roofs. Many sections are closed to the public to preserve the authentic architecture and atmosphere. In the morning hours, a light mist rises over the streets, and footsteps and jingling bells can be heard in the silence. People here live a measured life, preserving the traditions passed down from generation to generation. Lijiang seems to be frozen in its golden age, in no hurry to open up to the world. The Kumtag Desert is known for its extreme climate. Heat, dryness, and frequent sandstorms make it almost impassable. The orange dunes here seem endless, like waves of rocky emptiness. It is difficult to survive in such conditions, and there is little or no infrastructure. Only the most adventurous explorers venture inland to see the unique shapes of sand and sunsets that color the sky purple. Kumtag is a place where survival becomes an art. Taiyuan Island is difficult to access due to the lack of constant transportation and the rough waters around it. The coastal forests are shrouded in fog and rare birds nest on the cliff tops. Locals rarely leave the island, relying on the gifts of the sea and land. Everything here seems cut off from the world. There is no noise, no rush, just the sounds of nature. Taiyuan is an island of oblivion, where everything lives in its own rhythm. Meishan Mountain is considered sacred, and access to it is strictly regulated. Local monks and pilgrims observe strict rituals to maintain an atmosphere of silence and reverence. The roads here are narrow and winding, and the peaks are often hidden by clouds. Steps carved in stone lead to temples buried in greenery. Meishan is not just a mountain, but a place of power, where earth and sky seem to merge in prayer. Miao Village remains closed to mass tourism to preserve the unique culture of the ethnic people. The houses here are decorated with carvings and colored fabrics, and the villagers wear traditional costumes even in their daily lives. In the evenings, the sounds of flutes and dance rhythms waft through the village, a reminder of the deep spiritual connection with nature. The people here are not looking for progress, they are preserving the ancestral way of life. Miao is not just a place, it is a living culture that is carefully protected. The Woolen Mountains are part of a protected nature reserve where human presence is strictly limited. The mists covering the peaks create the illusion of a floating world detached from the earth. Here you can find rare plants and animals that can't be found anywhere else. The sound of waterfalls and rustling leaves become the only sounds in this quiet universe. Woolen remains a sanctuary not only for nature, but also for peace of mind. Lake Luhu is located high in the mountains, where the air is clear and cool, and the reflection of the sky in the water seems almost unreal. You can get here only by narrow serpentine roads through dense forests and rocky passes. At dawn, the water is colored in golden hues, and the silence is broken only by the cries of wild birds. Local peoples, especially the Moso, treat the lake with reverence, considering it sacred. Luhu remains an untouched corner, where nature dictates its own laws. Jinling Valley is hidden behind a chain of sharp mountains, through which a winding and sometimes dangerous road leads. There are frequent rockfalls, and thick fog makes traveling almost impossible. The valley is silent, disturbed only by the sounds of the forest and the sound of mountain streams. Rare travelers who have reached here report a sense of complete isolation and solitude. Jinling remains a territory where man is just a guest. The Ordos Desert is shrouded in mysterious silence, in sands that swallow whole villages. In places you can see traces of old construction sites, abandoned due to unstable dunes and environmental constraints. Nature here seems alive and capricious. The wind caresses or violently whips the sand in your face. Because of environmental restoration projects, access is limited and the roads are overgrown with grasses. Ordos is a place where the past fights with the future for the right to stay. Hainan's less visited areas hide wild, almost untouched nature. Coconut groves, deserted beaches, and reefs with colorful coral. In such places you can't hear the noise of hotels, only the rustle of leaves and the splash of waves. Local fishermen live in modest villages and rarely interact with visitors. Occasionally, an ancient boat anchor is thrown ashore, reminiscent of other eras. These corners of Hainan retain an air of pre-tourist silence. The village of the Miao people in Guizhou province has hardly changed over the years. Wooden houses, carved gates, colorful fabrics. Ancestral rituals are honored here, and strangers are received with caution. Life goes on according to the old calendar, with dances, fairs, and ancient songs. Tourism is strictly controlled so as not to disturb the way of life. In this place, history is heard in the voices of the living. The Taishan Mountains are a sacred place where only those who are ready for the spiritual path ascend. Stone staircases stretch up thousands of steps, each one a step towards heaven. The tourist flow is strictly regulated, especially in the temple areas. Here, a thick fog envelops the peaks as if separating the mountain world from the hustle and bustle of the world. Taishan remains a symbol of strength and silence. Xinian Canyon is hidden between high ridges, its cliffs jutting into the sky and the river below flowing in deep shadows. There is almost no road to get here, and every step requires effort. Birds nest in crevices and wild goats descend to the water. Everything here seems frozen in stone and time. Xinian is a living echo of ancient nature. Baidong caves hide the remains of ancient settlements, murals, and inscriptions dating back thousands of years. Because of the value of the artifacts, visits are strictly limited. Inside is semi-darkness, and the air is saturated with the smell of earth and stone. Here you can hear water droplets falling from the vaults, as if counting down the centuries. Baidong is protected not only as a monument, but also as a memory of the people who lived before us. Yangshan Valley is remote from roads and paths and can only be accessed via trails among the overgrown slopes. The noise of the cities doesn't reach here, only the wind blowing through the grasses. Villages are hidden among the hills, and the locals grow rice on terraces cut into the slopes. At times, fog covers everything around, turning the valley into a ghostly place. Yangshan remains hidden, like a secret that no one is in a hurry to reveal. Lushan Island stands apart, accessible only by an old boat, weather permitting. The cliffs rise above the water, and the forests are full of the cries of monkeys and birds. It can rain here for weeks, isolating the island from the rest of the world. Electricity is almost non-existent, and communication is lost as soon as you approach. Lushan seems like a world out of time, where everything flows according to its own laws. The Hunan Mountains are covered in dense green forests, where trails get lost among the thickets. There are no signposts, only the tracks of wild animals and the sounds of wind in the foliage. Some areas are known only to local shepherds leading their flocks up steep slopes. Morning mists envelop the peaks, turning the landscape into a living Chinese engraving. Due to the remoteness and lack of infrastructure, these mountains remain untouched. The Tibetan village in Qinghai is located amidst the cold plateau where the wind blows even in summer. The houses are built of stone and the roofs are decorated with prayer flags fluttering against the boundless sky. Visitation is restricted not by laws, but by respect for the spiritual practices and closed lifestyle of the inhabitants. There are no hotels or restaurants, just silence and the rhythm of Buddhist prayers. The locals are reserved and speak little, preferring to observe. The Mekong River in China's upper reaches is a raging torrent bursting out of glaciers. It flows through gorges where sheer cliffs overhang the water, and the noise of the rolls is deafening. Access to these areas is possible only by all-terrain vehicles or on foot, on trails leading through mountain passes. The water here is icy even in summer, and bridges are planks spanning between rocks. The upper reaches of the Mekong are a rugged beauty, almost unreachable. The Bamboo Desert covers a vast area, stretching as far as the horizon. Its sands are denser than in other regions and are often covered with salt crusts. The locals are nomads who have been forging their roots here for centuries. The heat is replaced by nighttime cold, and the silence literally presses on the ears. Due to the inaccessibility and lack of tourist infrastructure, only a few people come here. Lake Poyang-ku is one of the most important bird sanctuaries in Asia, where thousands of migratory birds gather every year. Its shores are dotted with swamps and marshes in which clouds are reflected. During certain seasons, access to the reservoirs is completely prohibited so as not to disturb the nesting flocks. Sometimes you can hear flocks of cranes rising into the sky with the loud rustling of their wings. The lake seems to breathe with nature, changing from season to season. The city of Fenghuang is known for its ancient architecture, but its real charm is hidden in the narrow alleys where no tourist sets foot. Behind the facades of restaurants and shops hide old houses, where you can hear the sounds of zither and the scent of sandalwood. Some neighborhoods remain closed due to the fragility of the buildings and the desire of the locals to preserve the peace. At sunset, the river is colored in golden light, reflecting the wooden bridges and boats. Fenghuang keeps its secrets behind carved doors. The Gansu Mountains are rugged peaks where snowcaps do not melt even in summer. There are no roads here, only trails among rocks and stones. The weather can change in a matter of minutes. The sun changes into a storm, and the sky is covered with heavy clouds. In some places, there are forgotten villages with stone walls and ovens made of clay. Nature rules here, and man is only a temporary guest. Carved into the rock, the Mogan Caves hold frescoes and statues that are over 1,000 years old. Access is strictly regulated so as not to damage the fragile colors and forms. The air inside is cool, smelling of the dust of centuries and moisture. Some caves are only open for a few days a year. Mogan is a museum hidden in the bowels of the rock. The Tibetan village in Sichuan stands high in the mountains, where the roads wind through the clouds. In winter, it is impossible to get here. Snow covers the trails and passes. The houses are decorated with Tibetan symbols and prayer flags fly on the roofs. Residents lead a secluded life, adhering to tradition and limiting outside contact. This place is filled with tranquility and strength of faith. Jinmen Island, located near the coast, has long been a military zone. Its shores are dotted with bunkers, and the roads pass barbed wire. Some areas are still closed to civilians, and patrols are a reminder of past tensions. The nature here, however, is surprisingly peaceful. Green hills, birdsong, and the tranquility of the sea. Jinmen is a place where silence carries traces of history. Somewhere far away from bustling metropolises and crowded tourist routes, among the winds, dusty trails, and stubbornly silent mountains, there are places that almost no one knows about. China is not just Beijing, Shanghai, or the Great Wall. It is endless plateaus, hidden villages, temples lost in the clouds, and lakes reflecting a sky into which few people look up. These lands breathe unspoiled beauty, where nature and tradition speak a language that needs no words. The world is full of mysteries, and the most fascinating ones don't shout about themselves from billboards. They are waiting for those who look deeper, look closer, and hear the silence. If you want to know more about the amazing, forgotten, and hidden corners of the planet, here it will be. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next journey to where the maps end.